Okay, so today we're going to talk about an interesting topic. It was inspired by a YouTube video I actually watched by a creator by the name of Alex Hormozy. So I just want to give credit where credit is due because he was the first person who exposed me to this idea. But essentially, the idea is called the not to-do list, also known as the anti-routine. Now, before I ask you about your thoughts on it, I just want to explain the the the, the precipice of this thing. So basically, when we think about super successful people, we think to ourselves, they must be doing stuff every day that I'm not doing that makes them so successful. But what Alex Hormozy says, which is so clever, is he flips this and he says, it's not that they're doing stuff that you're not doing. It's that you're doing stuff that they're not doing. And this is a very personal concept, this not to-do list. For every individual, it's unique. So I would say to you is like, what do you think about this idea of the not to-do list? And can you share some things for yourself that you've kind of discovered over time of learning, okay, this is something that I should definitely not do?
Yeah, sure. What a nice concept, firstly, I must say, and I think it's extremely applicable to people who perform highly. I'm trying to be a high performer. I wouldn't say I'm perfectly there yet, but every day I do try to be a high performer. And one thing I have noticed about trying to be a high performer is that it's not necessarily only about what you do, but it's about what you choose not to do. Because the more you can eliminate the things not to do, the easier it becomes to do what you need to do.
Mm,
So, I mean, for me, in a nutshell, the not to do list is the list of things that you must not do in order to increase your performance,
mm,
in order to increase your concentration, in order to arrive on time, in order to be in the zone. And generally, what I do when I start my day is that I focus on those things first.
mm,
What will hamper me from having a productive day? What will hamper me from being in a good mood? What will hamper me from not focusing in meetings? My phone, starting the day correctly, like I must exercise,
mm,
I must not drink before going to work or drink the day before going to work. Um, I must leave my home in a good state of happiness and not after an argument and things like that.
mm,
And I must resolve my own internal issues,
mm.
right? So I think the more you can focus on the not to do list, when you look at what you really need to do, you end up finding out that the stuff that contribute to progressiveness is really little. And the
Mm,
stuff that contributes to you going backwards is really big.
mm-hmm.
And a lot of the time, if you focus on this, how do I get forward without focusing on what's taking me back? Do you then find yourself in a space where even if you do move forward, this big list will destroy you and take you back? So yeah, that's just my 2 cents of it. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's such a cool idea, this one. And I think it would be a good exercise for everybody in life, every, I don't know, 6 months, 12 months, to just have a little check-in where you ask yourself, what am I doing right now that I know is really stupid and I should stop doing it, and just be honest. Um,
Yeah.
but I think if I look at it from the perspective of like a game or like a war or sport, I would say it's like defense and offense, right? The not to do list is your defense. Like, let me defend myself from my shortcomings, my stupidity, my
Yes.
human flaws. And then once you've handled the defense, it makes your offense a lot easier. Um, you were saying there's the big thing, the big amount of things that you should stop doing, and then the small amount of things that you should start doing. When you open up that space in your life by removing the things you know you shouldn't do, it makes it so much simpler to do the things that you know you should do.
Yeah.
Often you're killing two birds with one stone, where it's like, okay, if you know that lying is something that you should not do, well, then by default, you're going to tell the truth because it's the opposite, right?
100%.
The same with like if you've got a problem with punctuality, that's an easy one. If you focus on not being late, then you will be on time. So by handling your defense, you create the offensive action that you want in your life.
Mm, mm,
So I think really cool. And like again, I also think you should routinely ask yourself this question because you evolve as a person. And you know, everyone has different levels of skill, right? So maybe as a beginner, you're trying to handle a very basic thing to stop doing. Like, let me stop watching series until 12 o'clock at night every night, which is basic. Sure, everyone knows you should stop doing that, but a lot of people find themselves in this routine of doing that every.
mm, mm,
So if you can say to yourself, okay, well, let me just stop doing that. The opposite of that will be, okay, now I do something productive in that time, or I go to bed.
mm.
So your skill level will keep accumulating and accumulating and accumulating.
100%.
I guess you'll also notice things that are maybe not so obvious that you should stop doing, like complaining or criticizing other people. You know, that's like I think a lot of people would be surprised if they had to see a summary of how many times they've criticized someone in conversation being presented to them because
Yeah,
it's something that's very common, you know.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
I guess I would just finish by saying there's levels to the game. And so that's why it's good every couple of months to check in on yourself, even if you've succeeded in your not to do list, because there's things that are deeper under the surface for you to tackle. Sure.
100%. And you know, I like that, right? I mean, considering the fact that you live in a country or a region, or you work in an organization, or you're part of a family where things are generally okay,
Mm,
you know, and you have nothing that is monumentally against you to the point where you cannot change things.
mm,
Everything starts with you,
mm,
you know. So, for example, for most countries in the world where there's no war or, you know, all these issues that can stop you from necessarily progressing healthily, you know, if you follow the right ways to progress. If you start with yourself, and like I like what you said there, right? When you focus on the things that you should eliminate, you automatically build your offense.
mm,
So when you start on focusing on yourself, you tend to see the betters in others and you tend to look at negatives as opportunities. And I think once you look at negatives as opportunities, because of the habit of continuous self-improvement and improving on your flaws, you then become a stronger human being in society because you're then able to look at things objectively, right? Because they say if you can judge yourself harshly, right, and improve the elements of yourself that you judge, then you can do it on anything else without necessarily picking or offending or making that thing worse than it's supposed to be.
mm.
Because when you're dealing with yourself, you're gonna deal with yourself, yes, in a harsh way, but knowing that's the best thing you can do for yourself as well, right? And through dealing with yourself in a harsh way, you sometimes understand that that may not be the best way to do it because you kind of figure out that you're a human being too, you know? And the more you do that with yourself, the more you understand the world around you. And like they say, he who is a master of himself can be the master of others.
Mm.
So it is through the exploration of challenging yourself and experiencing the emotion, the challenge, the failures of criticizing and improving yourself, will you then be able to relatively do that with those around you and succeed.
Absolutely.
So all you need to do is conquer yourself.
Yeah.
If you can conquer all the things that are working against you, and then you can conquer all those things that are working against others in their lives.
Okay.
While knowing that all the things you've conquered have put you on the offense. And that cycle repetitively continues. And I'll give you a good example. If you go onto a program and you manage to improve your fitness levels overnight or over 6 months, habitually,
Mm.
you will then try and influence every other person close to you to be like, dude, I did this. I can help you do it too. But this is what it takes and this is what you're going to feel.
Absolutely.
While concurrently, you've now overcome one challenge and you now look back at yourself to find out what else can I do to improve myself now that I've conquered this challenge. So like it's almost like a process that continuously builds you. And as you build yourself, you build others. When you're
Absolutely.
building others, you come back to yourself. And it's such a joyful process because that's what makes you human, right? And that's why I said like everything starts with you. Once you work with yourself
Yeah.
and you focus on yourself, you will start to build the world around you. And it's just a rewarding process that just continues to cycle and cycle and cycle.
That's a great way of putting it. And I feel like the best advice you could give someone is a great example where you're not speaking, but you're acting. You know, it speaks volumes and it'll motivate that person to follow your lead so much more than anything you could,
100%.
like just um I don't know. I think I was reading this book. What was it called? How to Kill a Mockingbird. It's a very well-known book. And if I misquote this, please forgive me. I read it many years ago. But one of the lead guy, the father, his name's Atticus Finch, and he was speaking to his son about the subject of religion, right? And the father was a silent Christian in the sense that he wasn't trying to convert other people with his words. And the son, who was going through religious teachings at the church, was saying to the father, why don't you go and speak more loudly about your faith? How are we going to lead other people to this religion if you're not trying to convert them with your words? And he said, the most powerful way to lead others to your faith is to live your life in a way that makes them ask you, what is it about you that's so special? You're so special, but what is it? And then you can give the answer, well, it's my faith. So, to use that to apply it to anything else, it's like instead of saying to people, work out, work out, work out, work out, well, maybe you should work out and become a person that works out and is super happy and in great shape. And then people around you will be like, dang, this guy
Yeah,
looks
for
amazing.
sure.
Like,
100%.
let me try a
100%.
little bit of that in my life. And that way you don't have to be preachy, and which I know is ironic because we're doing a podcast and it sounds like we're being preachy, but this is stuff we're saying to ourselves, right? As a
Yeah.
reminder. Um, so yeah, use your
Wow.
actions as advice instead of your words, and you might actually have people listening to you.
And focus on being, right? I think
Yes,
being is one thing and preaching is another, right? I think
yes.
preaching, in my opinion, is when you generally want to share what you've experienced from being,
Hmm.
knowing that it's going to impact someone in the same way that it impacted you, right? Then there's another form of preaching, which is braggadocious, which is showing off and trying
Yes.
to, display your accolades. So I think that can easily be distinguished by the person hearing it,
Yeah.
and it is up to that person to determine how they want to receive it. But I do think preaching is always a byproduct of being, you know, especially if you want to contribute to society and you want to live a purposeful life. I always think like one of the most selfish things that a human being can do, and like don't judge me for saying this, right? But like if something works for you and it's changed your life and it's made your life better,
Yeah.
the very least you can do to kind of pay gratitude to the universe is pass that on to the next person, even if it's one person, even if it's your brother, even if it's this person on the street, even if it's your child, because that sticks with you and you don't want to take that to the grave with you, right? So, how do you pass these gems on to improve humanity? And like, humanity has not improved because you had one preacher preaching to 10,000 people. It's because one person told another one person, and another one person told another person, and then it became viral. So I think going back to what I said, starting with yourself is so important because all it takes is telling one person to
Mm.
create this whole revolution of how you can be better, and your experience can literally inspire way, way, way more people than you ever thought imagined.
That's absolutely true. I like the way
Yeah.
you put that. I think the big thing is intent. Why are
Yeah.
you here? What you learned. Are you sharing
For
it to
sure.
help, or are you sharing it to brag or try and impress people? And the
100%.
irony is, no matter what you say, your true intentions will betray themselves.
For sure.
People will, people will
See them, sense them.
absolutely.
Wow. So well said. So yeah, I mean, from my side, that's the main thing. The not to do list is the things you avoid to do so you can progress.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, if you're struggling to like be self-motivated and have this drive and ambition for your goals and things like that, just focus on eliminating what's taking you back.
And I would add to that, like, look at your life as a blank canvas, or a whiteboard with a erasable whiteboard marker. Don't ever be scared to just rub it out,
Hmm.
draw a new picture. You can reinvent yourself. You can change things. You don't
Hmm.
have to be the same person today that you were yesterday. Just because you've struggled with a bad habit or something for a large portion of your life does not mean you can't stop.
Hmm.
You can.
Hmm.
It's like if use smoking, for example. There are people who have smoked their whole lives that can quit. They quit. They do quit.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that person's not any better than you. They just had a compelling reason and they changed.
For
So,
sure.
but I think the number one rule in this whole game is be honest with yourself. Don't lie to yourself. Just be honest. Like, what don't
Hmm.
you like about yourself? What do you want to stop? And
Hmm.
then give yourself the time to figure it out, you know?
For sure. For sure. For sure. Beautifully said. And I mean, I don't think I can top it off better than that, right? Be true to yourself when eliminating dead weight,
Mm,
and the rest will take care of itself. But then I really love what you said there, right? When you focus on the defense, the offense takes care of itself. You know, what a
sure.
beautiful way to like self-improve. And I think what a lot of us do is we look at what can I do better to improve myself, and and you're not eliminating the bad habits. So you
Absolutely.
find yourself, let's just use exercise, gymming every day, running every day, but still drinking and smoking and eating takeaways.
Yes,
So,
absolutely.
so your efforts go in vain.
Yeah,
You don't
absolutely.
make any progress.
Absolutely. Yeah. And like, I guess it's the same. I've read this about building habits as well. It's like, or rather breaking bad habits. When you break a bad habit, you have to replace it with a good one, right? Well, I would also add, if you want to add a good habit, you first have to remove a bad one because there needs to be space for you to
Mm,
fill. It's like
mm,
if you say to yourself, I want to start reading every day. Okay, well, what are you doing that's not reading? Because if you're spending an hour on Instagram every day, that's your spare time, bro. Like that's the
for
time
sure.
to read.
For sure. Sure.
Maybe cut
For
that
sure.
Instagram in half and then read for the other 30 minutes.
100%. 100%. Wow. Wow. Wow.
I just want to add one more thing before we wrap it up, which we can talk about in a future episode further. But you're not short on time, you're short on priorities. We don't have to unpack that further. Just I'll end on that and we can talk about it in the next episode. But if you say you don't have time, you're just not making things a priority.
It's so nice to close because I think the one thing that we all have to accept is that we all have the same hours in a day,
Absolutely
but the output that we produce is
different.
hugely different.
All right. No, that's great. That's
Lovely.
all from my side. T, anything else you want to add? No?
Well, nicely wrapped up, Alex. Thanks for the wisdom. Much appreciated. And I hope it benefited anyone who might be listening.
Beautiful. All right, everyone. We'll see you next time.